So I want to clarify the difference between carbs and sugar. When you're on keto, normally you want to keep your carbs below 50 grams per day, preferably 20 grams per day, maybe 30, but between 20 and 30 on average. So when you're reading labels, do you look at carbs? Do you look at sugars? What do you focus on? And really, what is the difference between the two? Very simply, the difference between carbs and sugar is this. Carbs contain three things: starches, fiber, and sugars. Okay, versus sugar is this sugar. I'm going to try to keep this really simple, but let's just first talk about sugars, okay? There are a lot of different types of sugar, but they're mainly broken down into two different categories. You have monosaccharides, which means one saccharide. Now, the Latin word for the word saccharide means sweet sand, and the Greek word for saccharide means sugar. So when we talk about saccharides, we're really talking about sugars. So you can just have one simple sugar, okay? That would be like glucose or fructose. That's called a monosaccharide, mono meaning one. And then you have disaccharides, di meaning two. That would be like sucrose, because what makes up sucrose is fructose and glucose. So when you think about sugars, just think about really a simple compound between like 1 unit or 2 units connected. But in actuality, it's a lot more complex, but I don't want to get into that. But there's basically over 200 different monosaccharides, okay? So we're not going to go there. All right, now let's shift to carbohydrates. We have starches, okay? They're a little more complex. So starches are just a bunch of sugars that are connected. So when we get into starches, we have different names like oligosaccharides. So oligo means less than 20 units of those sugar compounds all connected, okay? So they're just a little more complex than a monosaccharide and a disaccharide. And then we have a polysaccharide. And so that would be these little units of sugar connected greater than 20, okay? So oligo is less than 20, poly means greater than 20, okay? That's the simplicity of all these fancy names for the different combinations of different sugars, okay? So that would be starches. Then you get the fiber, okay? Now, when you count carbs, okay, you're not counting sugars, you're counting carbs, you're gonna deduct the fiber. It's gonna give you the net carbs. Why? Because fiber is not digested by you, it's digested by your microbes. So they eat the microbes and then they give you certain benefits. So the fiber has no effect on insulin, that's why we deduct it from our total amount. Fiber acts as a buffer, so it slows this thing called the glycemic index down. And that's basically how fast something will spike your blood sugars. So things that are really high on the glycemic index are the things that don't have any fiber, okay? Heat and processed foods make the food or starch spike higher on the glycemic index. So for example, if you took a raw potato, for example, and it's not heated, it's not gonna spike your blood sugars. But if you heat it into like a French fry or a potato chip, it's going to spike that blood sugar because you're breaking down those sugars. You're making them more available for your body to turn into sugar faster. And then we also have processed starches. That would be like cornstarch and things where they're adding chemicals and they're breaking down these sugars. So it's very, very easy for your body to process because it's already broken down. It doesn't require any enzyme or help from your body. Then you have this concept of starchy and non-starchy vegetables. For example, celery is a non-starchy vegetable. Carrots are more of a starchy vegetable. Now, I don't want to get into the woods, but all you need to understand is that the more fiber things have, the better, because it's going to buffer the carbohydrate effect. And then you have sugars, which I just talked about. So carbs are a general category for starches, fiber, and sugar. So when you look at the back of the label, they just broke it down into total carbs, fiber, and then sugar. All right, so I hope that gave you a little more understanding of the simplicity of the differences between carbs and sugars. Before you go real quick, I have a course entitled How to Bulletproof Your Immune System. It's a free course. I want you to take it, and here's why. Here's you. Here is your environment. Everyone is focused on this over here, avoiding your environment. But what about here? What about strengthening your immune system? That's what's missing. This course will show you how to bulletproof yourself, and so you can tolerate and resist your environment much better by strengthening
your own immune system. I put a link down in the description right down below. Check it out and get signed up today. Hey, before